take a moment and just allow your eyes to close. Wherever you are, whatever position you're in, just allow your eyes to close. And allow yourself to draw your awareness inward. And draw that awareness to your breath. Don't work with the breath or change the breath. Just let it be an anchor for your awareness. And allow yourself to connect with that presence of pure awareness, of consciousness, of light, of spaciousness, of divinity. People experience and describe it with different words, but allow yourself to just drop into that inner experience. It may be happening in the midst of other sounds or smells or sensations in the world around you, but it's distinct from that, where those are constantly changing. This is something that's constantly constant, unchanging. Find that within you. And through the breath, allow yourself to just drop deeper and deeper into that presence within you, that source. That source of light. That source of love. That source of peace, an unruffleable peace, an undiminishable light. Because the qualities are not dependent upon something. They are just inherent qualities to the true nature of who you are. Allow yourself to just drop into that place within. If you notice thoughts arising, memories, emotions, feelings, don't hook yourself into them. Don't let them distract you. Just keep drawing the awareness back to the breath. And back to the breath as it leads you and pulls you deeper and deeper inward. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level. And gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. And press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly open the eyes and lower the hands. Welcome to Satsang. We start, as always, with a question that comes from our family joining through the internet, on social media, websites, etc. And then we open it up to any question that anyone here has. So any question you have, there's a microphone right here. Just come up to the microphone, share your name, share where you're from, and share your question. But we start with one that has come in advance. Please tell me how to deal with patriarchy, so prevalent everywhere. It hurts me to see incompetent men dominate. This is sent by Itu. I think that's how you say it, I-T-U, Itu. So it's really important that we don't try to solve our boxes by getting ourselves into more boxes. One of the great, on a spiritual side, one of the great dilemmas, problems, challenges with a patriarchal society is it's putting people in boxes, men, women, and it's putting labels on them, subjective labels. Good, less good. Capable, less capable. Hence we end up with dynamics in still many sectors in much of the world that are mostly men. The dilemma comes when we fight against that, and all we do is we just put more labels. We keep the boxes. We haven't done anything to free ourselves from boxes. All we're trying to do is swap labels. And instead of competent, less competent, we do more competent, less competent. Good, less good. And then we say better, less good. And all we do is we label men in the same way that we are theoretically revolting against men labeling women. Is there a hierarchy? I mean, a patriarchy? Absolutely. Are all men guilty? No. Does the simple fact that you are a man mean you are guilty of toxic patriarchy? Absolutely not. If If we move through the world, though, with this vision of, I'm so tired of the patriarchy, men are incompetent, when are we going to get them out of control, when are the women going to be able to lead, all we're doing is boxing up our own minds, creating more and more division, thicker and thicker walls. The ultimate aim that we're looking for is equality. An equality on the basis of gender, an equality on the basis of color, of race, of religion, of caste, of sexual orientation, of gender identity, of socioeconomic status, of political party, like however you want to divide us, what we're looking for is equality. Equality and opportunity. Equality and rights. We even recently, last week, we were celebrating International Human Rights Day, and on that day we were talking about the rights that nature has. Shouldn't a river have the right to flow cleanly, healthily? So it's another subject, but the point is, as we're talking about equality, human equality, but also equality in nature. Animals have rights. Nature has rights. The aim of removing one hierarchical system is not to substitute a different hierarchical system. It's to remove the hierarchy. And whether it's men on top, whether it's men of a certain color, men of a certain race, whatever it is, the goal is not to substitute that with a different gender or a different race or a different religion, but to remove all of that sense of hierarchy and discrimination. And to feel like all the men are incompetent is just putting labels on them that men have gotten away with for hundreds of years. Women are that, women are hysterical, women are this, as though we are incompetent. So that's the first piece. But the second piece, so that's the spiritual side, is make sure from your internal side that you don't just create more boxes and more labels. Doesn't help anything outside, doesn't help anything inside. On a logistic level, though, wherever we see inequality, wherever we see a hierarchy on the basis of something that has nothing to do with merit or talent or ability, and everything to do with size and shape of the body, where we're from, I mean, all of these things that have nothing to do with how good you are at something, how worthy you are of getting hired, or we need to work to change it as a society, together. People of every gender, every color, every religion, we need together to work to change this, to recognize the importance. But it doesn't work by blaming the other side. It doesn't work from, just creating different labels. It works by making sure that we no longer accept it. In India, it's definitely there. And I've said on numerous occasions that, we speak about women's empowerment. And yet, as long as the role that is pretty much relegated for women in almost all cases of big events, important stages, important conferences, the role that is relegated for women almost always is they come out onto stage with a nice tray, and it has like a shawl on it, it has the memento on it, and they're the one who, when it's the time to felicitate, honor the distinguished guests, who are almost always men, the young women come out with a tray, and it has a shawl or a bouquet or a memento or something on it. And I always say we have to change this, that doesn't count. That doesn't count as women's participation. That until and unless the seats on our stages, the seats around our round tables, the seats on our board are filled with 50% women, we cannot consider ourselves a society anywhere in the world in which women are empowered. We cannot talk about gender equality. We cannot talk about women's empowerment until and unless those numbers are equal. And that's true whether we are looking at national dynamics of a country, whether you're looking at a company, whether you're looking at a corporation, whatever small sector or large sector you're looking at, work on that level. Do you have power in a company? Do you have power in a society? Do you have power in a nation? Do you have power even just in your family? Making sure that there's equality. And sometimes it goes the other way. I know in my family, I'm an only child, and in my family we had a rule where we voted on everything. My dad and I each got 1 vote, and my mom got 3 votes. So even if my dad and I were on one side, we were always vetoed. So you can certainly swing the pendulum in the other direction a little bit too far as well. But the goal is wherever you've got power, in a family, in a school, in a university, in a company, in a work environment, in your community, wherever it is, make sure that there are women involved. If you're a man, refuse to sit on a stage if it's not filled with 50% women. Refuse to serve on a board if there are not 50% women. If you're a woman, gather together with the other women, raise your voice, and demand to be included. But in a way that is not pointing fingers and saying toxic patriarchy and you are incompetent. Because that does not, what it does is it shows that you are actually less deserving of that seat. Because it shows that you don't actually think clearly. It shows that you're discriminating. It shows that you're labeling. It shows that you're jumping to conclusions. It shows that you're not able to think rationally in the moment, but that you're just making broad generalizations that may or may not pertain to present company, present situation. So you want to do it from a place of strength and power, but not reaction. It should be pro-action, planned action, but not reaction. Because you don't want a situation where all you're doing is feeding into stereotypes about hysterics. There's no reason to be hysterical. There's no reason to scream insults. We have tons of ability to harness power and to harness strength, and we should. So on both sides, make sure that we're, each of us, I'll tell you a story. Back in Kumbh Mela in Nasik, Maharashtra, 2015, we at Parmarth, we set up camps, big camps, always in the Prayagraj Kumbh, like the one coming up this Jan-Feb, and in the Haridwar Rishikesh Kumbh. But in Nasik and Ujjain, we've never set up big camps, but we were doing big programs around water and sanitation and hygiene and ending open defecation and protection of water and climate change. And so we were coordinating with different organizations and ashrams who already had camps that were set up. And we arrive one day, we were going to be there for maybe 2 weeks or something. We arrive on the first day and we go to the camp where we are supposed to have our big program the next day. Now they're having another program that day. And I arrive with Pujya Swamiji. And we get brought up onto this stage that's this enormous, I mean, the Kumbh Mela, it's huge. And so the stage is maybe hundreds of leaders. The audience is maybe tens of thousands of people, at least. And we get seated on the stage, and about 10 minutes later or so, one of the young men in service, in seva, of the saint whose stage it was, the head of the ashram whose camp it was, comes over and whispers in my ear. He says, I'm so sorry, but this saint has said this is just a Mahatma stage, and I'm going to have to ask you to go down. Now, those of you who speak Sanskrit know that the word Mahatma literally means great soul. There's nothing gender specific about it. Doesn't mean man, means great soul. But the implication is men. So he says, we've put this nice chair and covered it and whatnot right in the front, and you can sit there. And of course I didn't. I walked out the back and down and sat on the banks of the river. But the point of the story is, after that, later that evening, Pujya Swamiji was sitting in the room with the leaders of that camp and of the akhadas, the lineages, the organizations, and you could hear him. You could hear him not yelling, but speaking very loudly inside. And he was saying to the other leaders, tomorrow, in our function, not only Sadhviji, who, yes, is female, but is a, officially ordained sannyasi, she's a monastic. Not only her, but we're actually having lay women on the stage. Because the head of the Gates Foundation Water Sanitation Hygiene Department is a woman. And she's coming. And she's going to speak. And the head of this organization we're working with from Germany has flown in from Germany, and she's a woman, and she's going to speak. And these are not even monastic women. These are normal lay women. They're also going to be on the stage. They're also going to speak. And if you do not permit this to happen, I will take this program into the street. He said, make no mistake. We are not doing this program with men only on the stage. He said, either these women will be on the stage or the program will take place in the street. And of course, we had a program in which we were all on the stage. But I share the story because toppling things in our society that need to be toppled require pressure from both sides, pressure from outside and pressure from inside. And so the responsibility of bringing about change in this is something that puts responsibility on the head of men with power and also on the heads of women. Both of it. It's not either or. It's not something that the women alone are going to do. It requires the men from the inside to also push at the walls from the inside. And only then do things change. But along the way, we need to make sure to not make the problem worse and not just fling labels at each other, not make gross generalizations, but actually work to bring about the ultimate aim that we all want and need and deserve, which is equality, oneness. So stop thinking about men as incompetent and start working to ensure that Positions are filled on the basis of skill, whether it's a man with a skill or a woman with a skill. That they're filled on the basis of merit, that they're filled on the basis of aptitude. Not on the basis of gender. Yeah, great and very important question. Other questions that anyone has? Yes, of course, come.
नमस्ते। मुझे ये पूछना है कि हम ध्यान, धारणा और समाधि, तो हम समाधि तक कैसे पहुँचे, जबकि ध्यान ही मतलब टूट जाता है, ब्रेक हो जाता है, तो हम समाधि तक कैसे पहुँचे?
Great. So, in the 8 limbs of yoga given by the sage Patanjali, we begin with yam and niyam, and we move all the way up to samadhi. Yam and niyam are essentially the 10 commandments, kind of the do's and don'ts of how to live a yogic life, a dharmic life. Then we have asana, using the body. Then we have pranayam, using the breath. Then we start to get more subtle and inward. Pratyahar, we withdraw all of our senses inward, like we did in the meditation in the beginning. It's a matter of sort of withdrawing them into the inward, the inner being, the inner sense. Then we have that single pointed focus. When I say bring the awareness to the breath, it could be on a candle flame, it could be on a mantra, but it's that single pointed focus. And she's asking, how do we get from there and from meditation into samadhi? What if our meditation breaks? Then how are we going to reach samadhi? We go from a place in which I am concentrating. That single pointed focus can be spoken about as concentration. I am concentrating on my breath, concentrating on it, concentrating on it. That's an active use of my mind. The mind is actively engaged. There is a seer and there is a seen. The seer is my mind, the seen is my breath. In meditation, the mind is simply being aware. It's not doing something. Earlier we were doing something. Watching my breath, or chanting a mantra, or watching a flame. Now, I've shifted into meditation, dhyan, in which there is just that pure consciousness, that pure awareness. That's actually what meditation is. A lot of times we call that which is concentration, we call it meditation. It's a tool to get into meditation. It's a technique we use to attain a state of meditation. But it's actually much more, if you were going to be very specific about it, it's actually much more concentration. Meditation is when we have access to that state that is just the pure awareness. Not the, I am the one who is aware, there is that thing I'm aware of. There's no more identification. There's just awareness. In samadhi, it's that experience of that bliss, the bliss that arises from that oneness, the full, the Sat Chit Anand. So it's not just Anand. It's Anand that is part of Sat and Chit, that is part of or together with truth, existence, consciousness, that true self that is one with, inseparable from the divine Brahman, Paramatma. That's what samadhi is that ultimate union into that, which is why it's spoken about as ecstasy or bliss, because it has that quality to it. It's not a state of ecstasy like you take a pill and you're ecstatic for a while and then you come down. But it's that state of ecstasy that arises out of that oneness. Now, agar beech mein dhyan toot jata hai, if our meditation breaks along the way, don't worry. Don't worry. It just means you're human. And humans are able to experience samadhi. But when it breaks, don't allow the awareness and attention to go into the story around it breaking. Nahi to dhyan toot jata hai and the mind goes, "Arey, aaj fir nahi hoga, ye kabhi hone wala hi nahi hai mujhse kuch nahi hota hai." And then you get into the whole story and the whole drama. And then you are far from samadhi. Then you've gone back into, yam and niyam, where you need to re-remind yourself to do swadhyay, where you need to re-remind yourself not to be violent to yourself. So you've literally, there was a game called Chutes and Ladders that I used to play when I was a kid, and it's like you get to the top, you're almost there, but you hit that thing, just fall right back down. So if your meditation breaks, don't let yourself fall down all the way down the ladder back into having to remember your yam and niyam. Stay there. It's okay. You lost the meditation for a moment. Just bring it right back. Just bring it right back. No story, no drama, no judgment. Just bring it right back. Bring it right back. Bring it right back. It'll happen. But here's what's interesting. Even though they are 8 limbs, they don't necessarily, it's not that in order to attain samadhi, I must first engage in a practice of asana, and then I stop my asana, and then I engage in pranayama, and then I stop my pranayama, and I work with my senses, and then I come into concentration, then I come into meditation, and then at the end of that, I will have an experience of samadhi. It's not that it always has to happen in that order. It's not like a recipe. We have to put this in first, then this, otherwise your cookies will not bake. As long as you are practicing and engaging in all of the first 7 limbs, samadhi could be something that happens to you. Sitting in the aarti. Happen to you anywhere. It's not that it necessarily has to happen on the tail end of a specific practice that involved all of those things in once. But they're all important components for our spiritual growth. But allow yourself as you move through your life to just be open to the fact that samadhi kabhi bhi ho sakta hai. Because that is the truth of who you are. That state of oneness is the truth of who you are. So it could happen anywhere. Don't expect that naturally always it's going to happen because you've gone from concentration, meditation into samadhi. Stay open. Who knows where and when it's going to come from. But keep doing the practices. Because ultimately, eventually, that set of practices will bring you there. Great. Other questions? Yes.
My name is Ramachandran, Chennai. My question is, every day you are attending the Ganga aarti, doing this satsang, do you ever get bored? Or how to handle with boredom of routines?
Great. Do I ever get bored from Ganga aarti and satsang? Never. Never. Boredom is not actually something that has to do with what's happening or not happening around you. Boredom is a state of mind. And it's a state of mind that could happen in the midst of the most exciting thing. Boredom has to do with a mind that is not engaged. It's a lazy mind, basically. People who are lazy get bored. People who are bored tend to be lazy. They go together. Boredom is the refusal to see the presence of the divine, the presence of life, the presence of that spark of life in every minute and every moment. It's a lazy mind, lazy attention. It sees just on the most outer surface. Oh, I've seen this TV show before. Oh, it's so boring. Oh, I've seen this aarti before, it's boring. Oh, I've seen my spouse before, they're boring. Eventually everything becomes boring if that's the way that you work. Right? Then you'd say, don't you get bored of your kids? I mean, you see them every day. Don't you get bored of your husband or your wife? I mean, every day, all day long, don't you get bored? But if you're not having a lazy mind, and you're actually engaged with life, you'll never be bored. Because you don't need external things to entertain you. Boredom arises when I'm relying on something outside to entertain me because I am lazy on the inside. So I need a constant state of entertainment and change. That which leads to a fulfilling life is not a constant set of entertaining change on the outside, but it's an inner ability to be engaged with every breath, every minute, every moment. It's what meditation teaches us. You know, in the beginning, aarti and satsang, at least things are happening. Think about meditation. For the majority of people, when they start meditating, it's incredibly boring. It's a bit of a defense mechanism. The mind wants you not to meditate so that you don't actually experience the true self, so that the ego gets to keep running the show. So it'll tell you, oh, this is so boring, oh, this is so boring, oh, this is so boring. And all that means is, I refuse to be present with this moment. Imagine that you had just gotten a death sentence. You've got 48 hours to live. Is your life boring?
I may ask to him to prepone now itself.
I mean, imagine you've got 48 hours to live.
Yeah.
You're sitting on a couch. TV is off. Nobody's around you, you're alone. Are you bored? Think really for a moment. Could you imagine being bored when you know that you're going to die day after tomorrow?
There's a big list.
Yeah. You'd go back to exactly the state we are when we're little kids. Suddenly your hand would start to fascinate you. Suddenly you'd be like, oh my God, I'm never going to see this hand again. I'm never gonna see the sun again. A leaf, a flower, my God. I'm never gonna see that again. Oh, that painting, I love. God, I've never really noticed that painting, but I'm never gonna see it again. Suddenly, every ray of light that comes through the window is extraordinary. Oh my God, maybe this is the last ray of sunlight I'm going to see. Please don't set, don't set, don't set. I want to keep watching. Whereas normally we're like, yeah, the sunset. Seen one, seen them all. Right? Lazy mind. And this is why so many people who end up with horrible terminal illnesses end up actually being really grateful for them. Even those who end up dying from them. I've heard so many people I cannot even count who are diagnosed with awful illnesses say things in their final days like, yes, I am so sad, and yes, I am so grateful, because due to this illness, the last few weeks or months or however long they've had has shown me life like I never saw life. So the key is to cultivate the mind, to be attentive, to be engaged, to be connected. If the mind is too much wandering around, you're going to be bored. Bring your mind to the present moment. Engage in a practice of mindfulness. I mean, aarti could never be boring. Satsang could never be boring because I'm so fully present in it. Otherwise, yeah, oh my God, another question like karma and destiny, really, again? Like, I mean, you could think like that, right? I mean, every day, basically, imagine, right? We're here living the human drama. We all have the same questions, of course. But it's never boring because every day it's different people. It's different people to be connected with, to be present with. One person asking about karma and destiny is asking about it from a completely different state than a different person. It's a completely brand new opportunity to connect with someone in that truth. It's a brand new experience every day. Being on the banks of Ganga, not only during aarti, but every minute, whenever I get a chance to go down, it's brand new. There's never a sense of, yeah, I've seen her. Water. It's Ganga. I mean, every time I walk down, I feel like I'm on a first date. Right? There's that like excitement. Oh yeah, first date. Feels like that. Cultivate a quality of the mind that's engaged, that's grateful, that's present, and you'll never be bored.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. I know there were some more questions, but we'll take them tomorrow. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, a beautiful morning, day to our family joining us online. Be sure, as I always mention, to take advantage of all of the wonderful yoga classes and meditation classes and philosophy and all of that takes place here every day at the ashram. Everything is open to everybody. There's no charge for any of the daily classes. It all runs on just a donation basis, open to everyone. So really fill yourself as much as you can to just help you remember and re-remember how much that internal cup really runneth over already. And I look so forward to being back together tomorrow with you all. So much love.